All right, so that was Browns GM Andrew Berry on Tuesday. Adam Schefter back with us. What are you hearing lately as all the NFL is here in Indy about Myles Garrett's trade request?
Well, the Browns say he's unmovable, and Myles Garrett continues to insist that he's not even open to discussing a new contract extension with the Cleveland Browns. And so both sides really are dug in here. The Browns can say he's unmovable, but Myles Garrett has no interest in discussing an extension. They continue to say it has nothing to do with money. He wants to go win. He wants to go to a place where he feels he has a shot at doing that immediately. And clearly, he does not believe that that is in Cleveland, which holds the number 2 pick in the draft. And we'll see what the Browns ultimately decide to do. I can tell you there's a feeling around the league that the Browns ultimately will decide to take a quarterback at number 2. They've got so much money tied up at that position in Deshaun Watson, and they need to stabilize the position and also get some financial relief by not having to pay top price for a top quarterback. The easiest way to do that is to find a quarterback, and when you're picking number 2, you're going to have the chance to get a quarterback, maybe either quarterback that you like most in this draft. So I think there continues to be a feeling that ultimately, no matter what the conversation is leading up to the draft, that Cleveland will use its first-round pick on a quarterback.
It makes sense to me for all the reasons that you laid out, and we've talked about this. I do feel that Cam Ward is the best quarterback in this draft, highest upside, physical, mental tools, all there. I think for Cleveland, there's a couple things, though, you got to work through. Do you like him enough to pass on Travis Hunter? We were just talking about Hunter, who is, we agree, a transcendent, to use your word, prospect. I personally have a higher degree of conviction in Hunter than I do in Ward, who I like, but Ward plays quarterback. And then the other thing, Lewis, is if you do go for Ward, how do you feel about integrating him into your offense? This is an offensive scheme with Kevin Stefanski where they have tried to alter it to accommodate Deshaun Watson the last few years. They've gone away from the under center play action based offense. Do you look at Cam Ward and feel we're going to have to do that again and build an offense around his skill set as opposed to Kevin Stefanski's system? This is something that they have to work through because, in Miami, primarily played from the gun. I don't think he's not capable of playing from under center, but it's something he's going to have to learn, Lewis.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is if you know Cam and you think about his journey, he would be the kind of guy who would not even give off the vibe of saying, look, I can only play one way. I can only play like I did at Miami. I can only play like I did at Washington State. This kid, I think he is such a different individual in terms of his mental toughness, given the fact that he started off as a 0-star recruit at Incarnate Word before he went to Washington State and then took on the job of going down to Miami. And basically, listening to Mario Cristobal talk about it, he said he's one of the greatest leaders in the history of Miami Hurricane football. And Mario played on some of the great teams ever in college football and said no one took over a football team or an organization the same way Cam did this year. And he was open to whatever would needed to be done in order to make himself great and help everyone else. So I think in Cleveland, to your point, Mina, I think he would adapt well to that kind of system, to an under-center system, to a 12-personnel system, a play-action type system. He would absolutely feast in that.
He's great at play-action in college.
Exactly. And then when you do put him in the gun, now you're in his wheelhouse anyway.
Yeah.
So to me, I don't think you can lose with him. I think, again, I have zero confidence in Cleveland being able to make sure that they shepherd a guy like this to the promised land like they need to. I have zero confidence in that. And that has nothing to do with Kevin Stefanski, by the way, who I'm a big fan of. It's everything else surrounding it. And I just hope that whoever winds up going there, whether it's him or Shador, I hope they do right by these kids. Because the fact that Myles Garrett is saying, look, I don't even want to talk to you about a contract. This ain't money for me. And they're saying, well, you're unmovable. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? You've talked to Myles Garrett. You were there.
We sat in a meeting
with him.
He is
as convicted an individual as there is.
And he went through all of the questions he had asked the Browns front office and didn't get the answers that he wanted to get. He wasn't just some guy that flew off the handle and said, I want to be traded out of here. It's a good point, Lewis, for context. Also, just quickly, I want to point this out about under center. Ward had just 4 dropbacks from under center in 2024, but he was 2 for 4 with 2 touchdowns on those 4 plays. So, hey. he does. Small sample size.
You know what I mean? Look, we thought the same thing, right, last year about Bo Nix.
Right.
Coming from Oregon. And how did he look this year?
Drake May figured it out on our center.
These kids are talented. They'll be able to figure it out.
Smart prospect.
Let's get to some more top stories with Adam as news continues to circle around here at the Combine. We heard from the Bengals on Jamar Chase and T. Higgins this week, their contract situations. What's the latest there?
Well, they have until next week to apply the franchise tag to T. Higgins. We saw one franchise tag go out earlier today. Trey Smith, the Kansas City Pro Bowl card, gets tagged, and the full expectation is that T. Higgins is going to get a tag. Everybody knows that Jamar Chase is going to get paid. They said they're prepared to make him the highest paid non-quarterback in football history. That's going to be a number north of $40 million a year. The real question is what happens with T. Higgins. Do they tag him and keep him? Do they tag him and trade him? We'll see what happens in Cincinnati at their wide receiver position. Staying in that same division, the Pittsburgh Steelers have questions at quarterback. They've been talking about keeping Russell Wilson, keeping Justin Fields. The Steelers do not have a quarterback under contract currently. Kyle Allen was the third quarterback there last year. He also is a free agent. Pittsburgh wants to have one of these quarterbacks under contract by the time free agency opens. We'll see whether they can get a deal done with Wilson or Fields. And Matthew Stafford continues to be the big quarterback domino that is holding up everything, that everybody's waiting to see how this shakes out. Stafford and the Rams have been talking, and they're trying to see if they can figure out a way and a contract to keep him in Los Angeles. I think that is the hope and the goal with both sides, that he stays there. Where it gets interesting is if they can't figure it out. What then happens? And I think when we look at this right now, whether Matthew Stafford goes back to Los Angeles or whether he gets traded to a team like the Raiders or the Giants, literally will dictate where other quarterbacks wind up going this offseason. This is the first big piece. The Rams are trying to see if there's a way to get it done. And until they exhaust those possibilities, this continues to float out there. I would think we'll get clarity. It could be today. It could be next week. Certainly by the start of the league year. Anytime. But Matthew Stafford is the big quarterback domino that needs to fall.
Yeah, it's coming up. That timeline is quick, potentially, to your point, but it is. Like, until that happens, we don't know what's going to happen. What do you think of the Rams' approach here, Lewis?
This is mind-blowing to me. This is flat out mind-blowing to me for a number of different reasons. Look, if you just look at it from Matthew's time when he was in Detroit to what he's accomplished since he's been in Los Angeles, that's enough right there. You can just stop right there as far as saying you don't mess with guys like this. You figure stuff out. It's not if we're going to, it's when we do. We'll make sure, especially considering where LA is in their program build. Just the offense, but the team overall. But see, here's the thing that, look, I remember sitting and talking to Sean McVay about Matthew after he traded him, and then after he had him for a year, and how effusive he was in the praise for this guy, and some of the colorful words. You know how Sean can talk when he starts going about football. The praise he had for this guy, like, I can't imagine that he's sitting there going right now, hey, let's just say who's going to blink first. Let's just play a game of chicken with a guy who's going to walk right into the Hall of Fame when he's done. I can't imagine that that's the case here. I can't imine him being in a different uniform. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And so to me, look, this is one where you better get this done.
Yeah.
You better get this done. And if some chance that they don't, if you are not knocking down the door and begging this dude to come to your place and clearing whatever cap space you need in order to satisfy him, you're crazy. Because this guy is unique. He was throwing no-look passes before Patrick Mahomes even got into the league. This is the dude. You don't mess with guys like this. You just don't.
This is one of my favorite things about being in Indianapolis, not just, rumors and reports and people coming up to Adam and bothering him, trying to get information, but also you just got to kind of bounce ideas off of people, right? We're amongst coaches and executives, and this is something that's coming up. I've probably had this conversation, 20 times since getting here, and all 20 people said, why would the Rams do this? That. Everybody's confused about that side. The other side, which Lewis alluded to, which is teams that might be in the market, that everybody understands. And a couple of teams that, keep coming up, the Giants, who are very much in win now mode. They do have, obviously, a path to a rookie quarterback with that third overall pick, but they have a front office, a general manager, and coach who need to win, quite frankly. So that makes sense. The Steelers also just make the most sense because, frankly, I believe Matthew Stafford might be their only path to getting over the hump that they've been on this offseason at quarterback.
Yeah.
So if I'm the Steelers, I am on the phones working them.
Adam, is it fair to say, and based on your reaction to what Lewis was saying, like, the Rams have been very clear they want to re-sign Matthew Stafford. This is more on Stafford's side.
I think it's both sides. I think the Rams gave his agent the ability to go out and to see what he was worth on the open market. And I think that's where there begin to be some issues because I think Matthew Stafford hears that he's worth more to other cities that haven't won, where his presence would mean a lot. And the Rams feel like, hey, we've been in this dance for 4 years together. We've had Mina call our preseason games. We've won Super Bowls. Let's run it back and keep it together, right? They feel like they've invested in Matthew Stafford. His family's situated there. Everybody's happy. They want to keep it together. But these other teams have placed a higher value on it. And so what does Matthew Stafford want to do? Do the Rams want to up their offer? How does everybody want to handle this? And they're going through all that right now, trying to come up with the right solution.
Yeah, it's dangerous when you open it up there and say, yeah, sure, go see what your value is.
Dallas Cowboys Nation, we've got a big-time trade rumor to break down today. Could Tyreek Hill actually land in Dallas? And should Jerry Jones make a blockbuster move to bring the explosive wide receiver to America's team? Well, Cowboys legend Emmitt Smith sure thinks so, and his reasoning might surprise you. But before we dive into all the details, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more breaking Cowboys content, and drop a comment below. Should Dallas go all in for Tyreek Hill? Let's talk about it. Segment 1, setting the stage. The 2025 NFL offseason is officially here, and the Dallas Cowboys find themselves at a crossroads. After a disappointing 7-10 season, Jerry Jones and company have vowed to be selectively aggressive in improving this roster. But let's be honest, if they simply run it back with the same group, nothing's going to change. And that's exactly why Cowboys legend and Hall of Fame running back Emmitt Smith is calling for a game-changing move. His suggestion? Trade for Miami Dolphins superstar Tyreek Hill. Now, this is a take that has Cowboys fans talking, and today, we're breaking it all down. Does it make sense? What would it cost? And would it actually work in Dallas? Let's get into it. Segment 2, why Tyreek Hill? First things first, why would the Cowboys even consider this move? Well, let's face it, the Cowboys' offense needs more weapons. CeeDee Lamb has cemented himself as one of the best receivers in the league, but Dallas has struggled to find a reliable WR2 since moving on from Amari Cooper. A guy like Tyreek Hill would immediately change that. His blazing speed and game-breaking ability would force defenses to pick their poison, double-team Lamb and leave Hill one-on-one, or focus on stopping Hill and let Lamb eat underneath. That kind of dilemma for opposing defenses is exactly what Dak Prescott needs if this offense is going to take the next step. Segment 3, the big problems. But hold on, Cowboys fans, this trade isn't as simple as it sounds. Let's break down the 3 major hurdles standing in the way of a potential Tyreek Hill trade. Number 1, off-the-field concerns. Tyreek Hill has had his fair share of controversy over the years, and most recently, he made headlines for pulling himself out of Miami's final game and then publicly saying he wanted to be traded. He later walked those comments back, but let's be real, when a player starts hinting at wanting out, it raises red flags. Is he really the type of locker room presence the Cowboys need? Number 2, declining production. For the first time since 2019, Hill failed to reach 1,000 receiving yards, finishing last season with 81 catches for 959 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now, he's still a dynamic playmaker, but at 31 years old, father time might be creeping in. The question Dallas has to ask, are they trading for prime Tyreek Hill? Or a declining version of the superstar we once knew? And number 3, the biggest problem of all, his contract. Tyreek Hill is currently on a 3-year, $90 million deal, making him a $30 million per year receiver. The Dolphins would take on over $28 million in dead money if they trade him before June 1st, meaning Miami would have to be truly motivated to move him. And for the Cowboys? That's a massive financial commitment, especially when you consider that CeeDee Lamb is due for a record-breaking extension soon. Can the Cowboys really afford to pay 2 receivers at that level? And if they do, how does that impact the rest of the roster? Segment 4, what would it cost? Okay, let's assume for a second that the Cowboys are serious about making this move. What would it take to land Tyreek Hill? The price tag for elite wide receivers has been all over the place in recent years. Some have gone for first-round picks, while others, like Keenan Allen, were traded for a 4th-rounder. Given Hill's contract and age, Dallas could potentially acquire him for a 2nd-round pick, or maybe a combination of mid-round picks. But even then, does that make sense for this team? The Cowboys have 25 players set to hit free agency this offseason. That means they have a lot of holes to fill, and giving up valuable draft picks for an expensive receiver might not be the smartest move. Would those assets be better spent on bolstering the offensive line? Adding defensive playmakers? That's something Jerry Jones and the front office have to seriously consider. Segment 5. Is it worth it? So, Cowboys fans, let's break this down. Would Tyreek Hill be an incredible addition to the offense? No doubt. Would he make the Cowboys better on paper? Absolutely. But is he worth the cost, the contract, and the potential locker room drama? That's where things get tricky. If Dallas truly wants to make a splash this offseason, there might be other, smarter ways to do it. Whether that's targeting a younger receiver in free agency, trading for a more affordable WR2, or even drafting an explosive rookie, there are options out there. But what do you think? Should the Cowboys go all in on a Tyreek Hill trade? Or should they look elsewhere to improve this roster? Outro, call to action. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more Cowboys news and analysis, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Cowboys!